About 18 years ago, my dad passed away, and he died from something called C. diff. And C. diff, for those who know it, is a very lethal infection in the intestines that come mainly from the overuse of antibiotics. But what's odd is, in traditional medicine, the only really thing that they can offer is more antibiotics. And what is concerning to me is that we know that fecal implants probably would have saved his life and probably a massive percentage of the people who die from C. diff. And I've always wondered in the field of nutrition, I've been doing this, of course, 46 years, and I study every single day the depth of the power of the green pharmacy. And the probiotics are an emerging whole industry. We still have a lot to learn, but we know a lot. But the one thing I do know is when people have C. diff, the normal probiotics don't seem to make a huge difference. I'm a fan of them. I think they should be used, but we don't see the similar effects that a fecal implant can do. And today we have an expert here, Jennifer Campbell, educator from Life Extension, one of the most regarded scientific companies in this country. Welcome to interview with Ed Jones.
Well, thank you, Ed. Nice to be here.
And I bring all that up to say that things have somewhat, as they do, evolved into a new strain of probiotic that I want to talk about, which is a human strain. And I'm not saying it's going to equal a fecal implant, but it's the first type of technology that is getting closer to something that's identical to our microbiome rather than similar to it. It's certainly more, but maybe you talk about it. It's actually Life Extension has it out, and it's called Youthful Gut. And I've started taking it myself, being, I think, very healthy. It's not like I'm seeing any major difference, but I'm trying to maintain that health. Why is this different?
Sure. So you're exactly right that these things are, we're seeing such an emergence and different things out on the market, and that's based on what we're seeing in the clinical data. So, there's a lot of myths and misconceptions about probiotics, prebiotics, postbiotics, what we should be doing with it. But what we want to be doing is following the science and what that literature demonstrates. And so that's what's really cool about this product and this blend with it is looking at those markers that are, not only promoting gut health, and we know that gut health is going to promote health, from the inside out, but it's providing pathways to effect for healthy aging and longevity, which is really exciting.
And let's talk about, so what makes it different when it's cultured from a human strain opposed to all the other brands out there? And the other ones have vast benefits, there's no doubt. But again, I'm so intrigued because of the C. diff story and the fact that fecal implants are so effective. This is getting closer, isn't it? And how does this actually work that it came from a human strain?
Yeah, it's the fact that, it's very similar to what your body is going to support within itself, right? Mm-hmm. So it's going to help increase other forms. So it's going to target, unbeneficial bacteria, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to target those and help to eliminate those. But it's also going to help to induce the production of other types of beneficial bacteria, like Akkermansia, right? Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily in this product, but it's going to help the body produce more Akkermansia to help to support those pathways to, to fight things like C. diff and just mm-hmm. really support, the gut, the barrier, all of that.
Yeah, supporting our innate ability to be optimally healthy is my goal. It's not here to treat a disease. It's here to feed the soil. And I'm wanting to feed my soil and also empower other people to do that as best we can with the good science and with the experience that we do have. And Akkermansia is an amazing differing type of probiotic that, of course, has a lot to do with the Ozempic story, because Akkermansia helps you to balance some of the physiology that some of the people using Ozempic are trying to do artificially. Mm-hmm. And in some studies, people have certainly done very well with Akkermansia with weight management. It also, Akkermansia, which all too well, helps to produce a mucin layer in the intestines. What does that do as far as protecting the body?
Yeah, so when you have that the barrier of the gut lining, as that starts to degrade, and that happens just naturally as we age, mm-hmm. but also, the amount of toxins that we see in our food, ultra-processed food, the overabundance of sugar that starts to eat away at some of the lining and the protection. It helps to feed sugar, feeds bad bacteria, right? So you just see a dysbiosis all across the board. But it really just helps to create that barrier so that things are being absorbed the way that they should. Because it's not necessarily about how much you take of something, it's how much you're absorbing of something. So if your gut barrier is, interfering with all of that, you're not getting the nutrients that you need. And then you run the risk, if, even if you're eating enough, quote unquote food, you're not getting the nutrients that you need to fuel the body.
Mm-hmm. And leaky gut is, I think a lot of people know leaky gut, and that is fairly devastating to the immune system because molecules and particles that should not have gone through this very tight junction barrier have found their way within the body, and the body sees them as enemies. So a lot of our chronic disorders may be linked to leaky gut. Do you think?
I think it's entirely possible, but you see this emergence of, chronic disease and chronic inflammation, right? And so once when your gut is leaking and it's, getting these toxins out into the bloodstream places they shouldn't be, you're seeing that excess inflammation. You're seeing that C-reactive protein. You're seeing those, inflammatory cytokines.
And, I love life extension because I've learned so much based on the focus of science and just a great passion that the owners have had all these decades, and the fact that they have been heroes in the fight against the dark days of the FDA. I was in the same arena because opening here 46 years ago, I talk about this lately a lot, is we actually had to use a measuring tape. And if we had any article on vitamin C, we had to measure the distance between the vitamin C bottle and the piece of paper because we knew we would be in deep trouble if we were caught. Just one of the many dark areas of this industry that people don't realize, that the heroes had to fight for the right to even be in a business. And the Deshay bill, which was passed by only a small amount, is what allowed this to happen. And I want to talk about the life extension protocols. I have used those so many times. Tell people how and the importance of knowing this piece of information when you or your relatives or somebody you care about wants a protocol based in the more integrative approach of helping the body heal itself, while at the same time using traditional methods sometimes to manage a disease. I have the book that they don't print anymore. It's about this thick, but it's all online. So tell people what that protocol is.
Yeah, the protocols are just really wealth of information and great resources, and we have hundreds of them. And what's so cool about it is they are all backed by science, right? This isn't just what life extension thinks. This is what the clinical data and the literature demonstrate, right? So, they dial down, they go the overview. This is what it is, and then talk about conventional therapies, talking about nutritional interventions, kind of things that are, on the horizon. But what's nice about it is that you give options for people who may haven't tried something but can have the confidence in looking at this is clinically validated and it's all peer reviewed and cited within that text. So I think, looking in the context of, helping to, whether it's, managing disease or prevention, I think that there's a lot of resources that people just aren't aware of. And it is that balance between, quote unquote Western medicine and a more functional approach. But that's what I really, really like about Life Extension, and what drew me to the company is the science behind it and looking at approaching things from a holistic standpoint, mind, body, and soul. It's not just, you can't just fix one and not the other. The body is a system and you have to treat it in systems-based medicine.
Yeah, I love that as we're not separate components like an automobile where you go in and if the carburetor or fuel injectors are messed up, you just replace the fuel injector. The body doesn't normally work that way. Occasionally it can, but generally it is a rippling effect of an orchestra of physiology. And when you do one single thing, you alter the downstream effects of dozens to hundreds of other components. That is why drugs have side effects, because drugs do not just do one thing.
Yeah, and they're looking at it as treating just a symptom versus treating the underlying cause, and that's what's so great about functional health, right? And also too, like when you're looking at addressing all of these things, look at it as a pyramid, not the food pyramid that wasn't based on science, but you have to have all these things dialed in, right? Supplements are there to supplement. You've got to have diet. dialed in. You've got to have, are you working out? From there, like, let's go up the chain. Is your food timing on par, right? Is the quality of the things that you're eating, is that in sync, right? And then from there, then we can move up into the more nuanced things of nutrition, nutraceuticals, and things like that. But you really need to have that whole health approach to it. Otherwise, you can take all the supplements in the world that you want. They're not going to outrun a good diet and movement.
I agree completely. I've watched so many people over 46 years only have one basket. And some of those people, their basket could be just exercise, but then they don't eat well and they don't think well and they don't supplement well. But the other ones that are sadder to me are the ones who, and I've never professed this, that we have all the magic pills at Nutrition World and you really don't have to worry about anything else.
Yeah.
And most of those people do poorly as they age.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is a whole health approach to it, and those are the factors, like like you said, the baskets or the buckets of aging and longevity. Where you're looking at diet, you're looking at diet and nutrition, you're looking at exercise, you're looking at gut health, you're looking at hormone health, you're looking at sleep, social connection,
yes.
Mental health, all of these things. And then the technology that you get to sprinkle in outside of that. And just, of course, knowing your own self and your body, right? Knowing, like, blood work, that snapshot in time, like where you are. But then also what is in your genetics, because what is helpful for you may not be for another. Like, specifically when you're looking at, like, say, an ApoE4 gene, right? And how that dietary consequences can affect, memory, cognition, and, your risk factors for Alzheimer's disease.
Yes, well said. And before we move on much further, how do people access his protocols? What's the easiest way online?
If you go to the lifeextension.com website, we have a menu bar and it'll take you to a section that says Learn, and we have archived all of our magazines dating back to 1996,
Wow.
every month. And then we have our protocol section. So you can search by a certain condition A through Z. We have kind of, overall categories, but or you could just type something in and a lot of times pop up if you're looking for something super specific.
I think sometimes that when I do it, I go to lef.org and put the word protocol, and then it usually pops up, I think. I won't hold you to that. I know you've written a book on aging.
I have, yes.
So tell me about that. That's interesting because a lot of people write books. And sometimes it takes 2 years, 3 years to write a book. This isn't done in a month in most people. So tell people about your book.
Yeah, so for me, it really just kind of came of a love for what I've been doing in my career in the health and wellness industry. I started out as personal training, and I loved it. So physical fitness has always been a part of my life, but I saw early on how, success was really stemming from nutrition. So that really, spawned my love for getting deeper into that. So I went back to school, I got my master's in nutrition education and really started diving into it that way. And then I got to combine, the benefit of diet and exercise. And then just through, years and years of continued education, going down a more functional route and looking at how, because it's the same with, functional training physically, right? I'm not necessarily training the average person to run a marathon or, to head to the Olympics. And while I have trained those people, that's not the average person, right? The average person wants to be able to get their groceries up the stairs in one trip, right? That's functional. So how do we age functionally, right? Where you get to still do the things. Because we can have the longest lifespan we want, but if we're not healthy through that, our health span, nobody wants to live to be 100 and feel like crap the entire time. So for me, it was really looking at the research, all the resources that I've had the opportunity to gain through Life Extension and their education, and really putting it into a practical application, really dialing it down, explaining what aging is, and then what we can do about it, right? So giving them the tools to do something. So that to me was very important, and addressing all those buckets like we talked about, because it's not just one. You really have to do the work. And I know that people don't want to hear that, but you have to do the work. And so giving them the tools and resources to do that and to age well, to age gracefully and feel good as they do it, and take their peers along with them. So you have that social connection in your later years in life.
What's the name of your book?
It is called Aging and Longevity, How to Live Longer While Aging Gracefully.
Wonderful, wonderful. And the last thing I'll say is, you spoke to it in different ways, but I know very deep in my heart that we must create a team approach as far as aging gracefully. Your general practitioner has a place. There's no doubt. I mean, early in my life, I was more on the fringes of, if I eat perfect, take the perfect supplements, I will never, ever have any decline of health. We are organisms that don't have indefinite mileage. We do have a certain level of wear and tear just by breathing itself. I mean, I had double hip replacement 2 years ago. Why is that? Because, I'm 68 now, but I had a lot of wear and tear. And I think a few other things too. But I know that a team approach like Nutrition World has 5 of the most experienced health coaches, one in gut, one in weight loss, one on mitochondrial function, other things. And we have 17 practitioners also. So find people that you trust, and also make sure you find people you shouldn't trust. And in the traditional medical model, it's a little bit more difficult sometimes, but asking the right questions early on, having a sense of intuition that these people truly have my best interest at heart. One, they're not just prescribers, and that they understand that it's okay to have multiple people to help us on our path of life.
Well, and I think if you also find a practitioner who is okay with saying, I don't know.
Yes.
I think those that have the humility to say, like, I don't know, but let me help you find somebody that does. And I think we are in a cool era that there's so much access at our fingertips that we have the ability to go out and search, talk to other people, look at forums, look at reviews. With that comes a lot of misinformation, but, being savvy about how we sift through all that and find the resources that we need, because not every doctor is going to be a specialist in everything. And they know that. A good practitioner will tell you they don't know.
Yes. And sometimes we have to go to 2 or 3 to find that person, but they are available. And I go back to, you just get diagnosed with a disease or a family member. Life extensions protocols have been life-saving for many of my clients, customers over 20 years, I know. Probably, I guess, I don't know how long it was actually started, but as long as it was, we have used that because they can print it off, take it to their physician or their healthcare practitioner. It's hard to argue with it. It's completely science-based. And if it says that, in studies that taking zinc and this and that can help contribute to a better health because you have a rheumatoid arthritis or you have this or you have that, you can't argue with it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the Green Pharmacy is so literally a safe version of options in 99% of the cases. And even with that, life extension protocols talk about if there's a side effect of a nutrient, it's going to be put into that protocol.
100%.
So I want to keep pushing this protocol on lef.org. Is it lef.org?
It's Life Extension. The public-facing website is lifeextension.com.
Okay.
And so, you can search for it that way. And I do want to say, you probably know this, but Life Extension does something that no other company does, and I find it just amazing. We do have the opportunity to do some lab testing, and we have lab reviewers that can go over your test with you. So if you get something back from a test that you do from us, or if you just send it in to us that you've done from your doctor and you need help understanding it, we have lab trained specialists who can go over that with you, which I find really, really cool because there's a big difference in the medical community between optimal values and a reference range. So that's something that I really love that we do. And so how we get people to optimal health.
I love it. There's been so many jewels of information. Jennifer, thank you. You flew all the way from Las Vegas
I did.
to be here at Nutrition World and gave a wonderful lecture, trained the staff. My staff, I just look forward to coming to work every day because they are so into learning and learning and learning because they have a passion. And you generally don't have a passion until you've gone through some dark days. And those dark days in most older people are, their family members got really sick or they passed away or they got well and they learned from that or their individual path. And so I've got people who really have gone through the war themselves and they decided to go either to the right or to the left, and the way they went was this way, and it served them very well, and they can serve other people with advice without treating medical conditions. So thank you for coming to Nutrition World.
Well, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. This has been really fun.
Great. We'll maybe see you again in 6 months to a year.
I'll be there.
All right.